Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ringside Cinema. I am Mike, and have you ever found yourself playing WWE 2K25 and just saying things like, I hate my faction, I hate people who spend money on my faction, I hate this about the game, I hate this about the game, and most importantly, I wish someone else could make a WWE video game. Well, that reality might be coming our way. Because if you've not been paying attention to the news cycle, Electronic Arts, aka EA Sports, was bought out by a private equity, so to speak, that has ties to Saudi Arabia. And while we do know uh, relationship that WWE and Saudi Arabia has. So perhaps we're looking at a EA WWE video game in our future. Let's talk about it. So I got the press release up here, or from the article from the AP. So let's go over that first. EA Electronic Arts, the maker of video games like Madden, NFL, Battlefield, and The Sims, is being acquired by an investor group including Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund in the largest private equity funded buyout in history. The investors, who also include a firm managed by Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of President Donald Trump, and the private equity firm Silver Lake Partners, valued the deal at $55 billion. Here we go. The commitment to the massive deal is in line with recent activity in the gaming sector by the Saudi fund, wrote Andrew Maroke of Raymond James. The Saudi PIF has been a very active player in the video game market since 2022, taking minority stakes in most scaled public video game publishers, and also outright purchases of companies like ESL, Facet, and Scopely. The PIF has made its intentions to scale its gaming arm, Savvy Games Group, clear, and the EA deal would represent the biggest such move to date by some distance. I talked about the Saudi Arabia stuff when I talked about my video about Saudi Arabia getting WrestleMania 43. So if you want my thoughts on that and Saudi Arabia sports washing in general, go ahead and you can just click that video up here. But yeah, let's go back to what this means here. So another thing that's interesting. So someone pointed out on the WWE Games Reddit that when WWE announced Stephanie McMahon going into the Hall of Fame, when she was announced to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Very, very early announcement, by the way. But it was noted that EA Sports sent out a congratulations message. That's interesting, because they don't make the video games right now. It's 2K. It's Take-Two Interactive. So why would EA Sports send out a message congratulating Stephanie McMahon being inducted into the Hall of Fame if they've never made a WWE video game before? And then you take in part that this deal of Saudi being partnered in all this to buy EA Sports, that kind of makes it a little bit interesting now, don't it? EA Electronic Arts, a global leader in interactive entertainment, today announced that it has entered into a definitive agreement to be acquired by an investor consortium comprised of PIF, Silver Lake, and affinity partners in all-cash transaction that values EA at an enterprise value of approximately 55 billion. The transaction positions EA to accelerate innovation and growth to build the future of entertainment. What does this mean for the WWE 2K series? The future of WWE games in general? Will it go to EA Sports in the future? Yeah, you know, I mean, like I said, I do think it's kind of weird that EA sent out a congratulatory message to Stephanie McMahon saying, on the Hall of Fame. And then this happens. Could we see I guess, what is it? What do they do? Madden 26. So I guess we would see what? WWE 27, 28? I mean, look at it took them a couple years. Like, I don't know the contract details of the situation with 2K, but if EA were to get the license, you have to think that there's going to be a couple years where we might just get the last remaining 2K games while EA is developing a new WWE game for launch of the new contract agreement and video game series. Like it's gonna be one of those things where, are we going to see 2K? Are we at the end of the line when it comes to the 2K series? If when you look at how long it takes to make a video game, EA released College Football 25 last year. They announced it like a couple years in advance because of how long it takes to build that game from the ground up. Even though for the most part, I think they probably just use a lot of Madden technology and just apply that to college football. But you're talking about building a game from scratch. This isn't like UFC where they can just transport like the moves and animations from there to the WWE games, because it's so different. College football, Madden, NFL football, that's a little bit easier transition for them to build upon to make a college football game. But when you're talking about a brand new WWE game, what are we looking at? Obviously, yeah, there's going to be microtransactions. That's the era we're living in video games nowadays, where there's always going to be microtransactions. Obviously, you know, um, again, now I only really play Madden, but they have Ultimate Team or Madden Ultimate Team MUT, which is their card game. And then you have 2K with My Faction on the WWE side. So is EA gonna have like Ultimate WWE, Ultimate Faction, something like that, right? But I am just very curious to see how this all goes. I believe 2K, I think, has a couple years left on their deal with the WWE. I'm not sure. But if they do enter a new partnership with EA, that being WWE, then that would give EA enough time to where they could fill the remaining years of the 2K contract while EA makes a new video game from scratch. Now, obviously, that would also mean a lot of time being spent for the wrestlers going to scan, going from 2K Studios, going to EA Studios, and, getting scanned and doing all the motion capture. And obviously, when they're talking about in the press release about how they can make advances going forward in these video games, I mean, look, if anyone's played Madden in the last 10 years, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by advances, right? But it's one of those things where I really do wonder if we're at the tail end of the 2K series with the WWE, Are we looking at a new horizon with EA Sports? Given the partnership with Saudi Arabia, the WWE, obviously Saudi Arabia is getting WrestleMania. They're probably going to get many more events, many more WrestleManias. And, right now we have the 2K games being released in March before WrestleMania. So EA could realistically keep that time frame of releasing the game in April or in March before WrestleMania. And if it is a couple years, I could see WWE after 2027, maybe 2030, maybe 2029. Maybe that's when we're looking at maybe a potential EA WWE video game. But that could line up to where Saudi Arabia goes, hey, we want another WrestleMania, and then we want to tie that into the release of the new WWE 28, 29, whatever it's going to be called. So I'm going to be curious to see, are we going to see the continuation partnership with 2K? We know EA makes the UFC games, and we know TKO owns both the UFC and the WWE. So, I could see them wanting to go down that route of having everyone or both UFC and WWE under the same video game company, because that would allow them to you can import UFC fighters over to WWE games. You could import WWE wrestlers into a UFC game. So if you want to have CM Punk and relive his UFC days, you can import him over to the UFC game, right? So, there's a lot of potential there they could do. I mean, look, I talked about this before. When the partnership happened, we could see this be a thing. We see celebrities going into the game. It would not surprise me if they want to try to integrate UFC into the WWE video games in some form. I mean, hell, they are promoting UFC fights during WWE programming or on WWE programming. So it's not that far fetched to think that WWE might want to go over and put the WWE video game series under EA Sports. But also, we've seen them with the way they're doing these TV deals. They want to corner the market. They want to make sure that AEW can't have any market or any TV deals or whatever. They gotta limit them. Oh, we're on Paramount, Peacock, ESPN, Netflix. It's like, so I could see them wanting to keep 2K under the fold, and maybe we don't go to EA because then they might fear that 2K would go to AEW and say, hey, we want to make your video game. They left us for EA Sports, so let's make an AEW video game. So, which would be a lot easier for them to make, because then they can make a simulation game. And since WWE, AEW, the same thing, it's wrestling, all they gotta do is just put AEW wrestlers instead of WWE, wrestlers. So it's one of those things where I'm gonna be curious to see if this leads to anything with the future of the video game series for 2K. Are we going to get a WWE EA game in the future? But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting that Saudi Arabia is partnering up to buy EA Sports, and they're given their relationship with the WWE. It's not that far fetched that this is a strong possibility that WWE could be on the tail end of the contract and their partnership with 2K. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Do you want to see EA Sports make a WWE video game? Do you want to see anyone else make a WWE video game? Or do you want to see them stick with 2K? Let me know in the comments below. I've been your host, Money Mike, and you've been watching Ringside Cinema.